In about 25 minutes from now, thousands of American auto workers could walk off the job, striking against three of the biggest automakers in this country, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler owner. With me tonight to discuss, New York Times reporter Neil Boudet, who has been covering the auto industry for over 20 years, and Seth Harris, former White House National Economic Council Deputy Director and Senior Fellow at the Business Center for Social Change. Neil, the strike is getting closer by the minute, right? And people often say, like, they're pro-union or they're not. But it's not that black and white, right? When you hear auto workers say they're working a full-time job, but they need to be on government assistance if they want to support their families, well, that makes absolutely no sense. And then when you talk to the automakers and they're saying, if we met the union demands, we couldn't possibly compete with non-union automakers in other states like a Tesla, a Toyota. So what do you do in this situation?
Well, it's very difficult. The wage thing is something that the two sides can negotiate because they can come down somewhere in the middle. They can compromise. But on the other things that include a kind of a job protection for workers when plants are closed to keep them on the payroll, even though their plants are no longer operating, that's something that there's no middle ground. It's either all or nothing. And those are very difficult things for the union and the two sides to come to agreement on.
You know, when you see it, Neil, when you hear that the union is asking for a 32-hour work week and a 40% pay raise, on its face, that says, wow, that's a lot. But, you know, in even the last year, you saw pilots get raises like that. You saw UPS workers. So it's not that unreasonable.
Well, the 32-hour work week, they're asking for they want to work 4 days a week and get paid for 5. But I really think that's a negotiating ploy. There are a good number of auto workers out there who are working 6 days a week or 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, sometimes even 12 hours a day. So these are very long hours. And I think they made that eye-popping demand in order to highlight the plight of these workers and try to get more time off from these jobs, which, by the way, are very physically demanding to be standing and doing the same job over and over for 10 hours a day.
10 to 12 hours, 6 days a week on your feet. It's not just auto workers, though, Seth. This is the summer of strikes. What's going on?
Well, workers are angry and workers are feeling empowered. And one of the reasons they're feeling empowered is because we have very tight labor markets. And so their labor is especially valuable. That's one of the reasons why 4 million workers a month for almost 18 months were quitting their jobs. They felt they could find another job fairly easily. These workers also are very angry and they feel that they have been cheated in the past. A big part of what the UAW is demanding here is to undo concessions of the past where the UAW essentially gave money to the auto companies so that they could survive and profit. They want that money back now that the companies are fantastically profitable. That's true in Hollywood. It was true with Teamsters and the UPS, and it's true in a lot of places around the country.
They got a good point. Think about what auto sales have been like over the last 4 years, Seth.
Absolutely. $21 billion in profit among the big three just in the first half of this year, much more than that in the years preceding. These companies have made a lot of money. The CEOs have made a lot of money, and workers are really angry about it, and they want to be treated fairly. And that's the demand that we're hearing all around the country from all kinds of workers. And they have a president who is saying, I'm the most pro-labor president in history. I want you to go out and organize. I want you to make the demands that you need to make. He's not taking a position on particular negotiating ploys or arguments at the table, but he is saying to workers around the country, this is your time and your president is behind you.
Seth, when we do see workers across different industries get wage increases, which are desperately needed in industries where those businesses make a lot of money, how do we prevent those wage increases not getting translated into raising prices for consumers, right? Go buy anything. Go to a restaurant, right? Go to a restaurant. See what it costs you to get dinner right now. And it costs a ton of money. And they go, well, we have to pay our employees more money. So we're in this vicious cycle that we get excited that people now get a higher, better living wage while the cost of living goes up.
Well, That's a hard argument to make in the context of the automakers. Labor costs are about 5% of the total cost of these companies. So even if the UAW were to get a 40% pay increase, which I don't think is how this is going to turn out, it still wouldn't justify the kind of price increases we're seeing from the companies. And let me just say, the companies have raised their prices without labor costs going up. So, in a few industries, particularly service industries, there might be an argument about the effect of labor costs on prices, but not in this case, not with respect to the Teamsters and the UPS, and certainly not in the case of Hollywood.
But that's kind of my point, though, Seth. We're seeing all sorts of industries just keep raising prices and attributing it to, well, we've got to do more for our workers. And so, we're kind of getting screwed on both sides. How do you push these industries to treat their employees better and treat their consumers better?
Well, maybe by telling the truth about the effect that profits have on inflation. Paying out huge amounts of money to CEOs, paying out huge amounts of money to shareholders also has an inflationary effect. I think they use workers, as they have for many, many decades, as the scapegoats in an argument over inflation. It is not wages that are driving inflation in our economy. It was supply chains for a good long period of time. Profits are a big part of the story. In some industries, I think there's an argument about wages, but very few, and it's mostly the service sector.
And this is why, at a moment like this, those workers have to have their voices heard, and that might result in them walking out on the job in just a few minutes from now. Neil, Seth, thank you both for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. You do not want to go anywhere.